Today we're going to focus on how to set up and draw for our phone stand. Now this is the phone stand that we are going to be designing together, and there's quite a few parts to it. So this will probably be at least a 2 or 3 video series. As you can see, this is nice because it's got the maple and the walnut, the different colors of wood. We'll probably wind up laminating 3 pieces of solid wood together. We're going to use all alder when we build yours. This one just happens to be walnut and maple, which is nice so we can see the different parts. I think your very first step is going to be to glue together these 2 back pieces. So you can see this walnut and this maple piece. The back piece doesn't have any cuts into it at all, but it leaves such a thin layer right here of the first piece that we need to have this back piece on there to be strong. You can also look, if you come to the phone stand ideas, you can see several different ideas. This is another one I think is probably the second best option that we have. You can see that the tunnel for the sound comes out here and just goes to the one speaker. I'm going to go back to VCarve. What you want to check for on your phone is where the sound comes out. So my phone has the sound coming out here and here, these 2 spots. So the sound comes out the bottom of the phone. You may have sound coming out of the sides or some other spot. Make sure you know where the sound is coming out, because we're trying to channel that sound to come back towards the user, not straight down like a problem if it sits on there. The other thing you got to do is figure out how big your phone is. So my phone is 3 inches wide, about 6 inches tall, and with the case on it, because you don't want to have to take the case off, I'm about 3/4 of an inch thick. Phones tend to be getting bigger. Maybe the trend will go back the other way, but it's important to know how big your phone is before you start doing this, because I have a pretty small phone. If you guys just copy my dimensions, your phone likely won't fit into the opening, and future phones that you get may not fit in there if they are bigger. So I'd give yourself some buffer, and I'll leave up to you how much that buffer is. So I'm going to come up here in VCarve and say create a new file. And if I'm measuring this stand right here, it is 10.5 inches long and 5 inches tall. So I'm going to use that to start with. We can always modify it. So my width is going to be 10.5 and my height is going to be 5. And for right now, let's go with thickness of 1.5. Well, not 105, 1.5. Because we're going to take 2 pieces of 3/4 inch material, sandwich it together to make our first cut. And really the thickness of the material doesn't matter. All that really does is it gives you a warning if you're going to cut through. So this white background is how big the actual board is. Maybe we want to give ourselves a little bit of space. I will probably change this to be more like 12 by 7 just to give us some more room to play with on our blank space. So I'll come up here and draw a rectangle, and we're going to draw a rectangle that will be that 10.5 and be 5 inches tall. For whatever reason, it creates it way off in space. I can use this to move it back here. And what we're going to try to do is center it so the middle handle, if you don't click this one, if you just click that one, you don't see the points. So we want that to be right in the middle. Now we need to start drawing our sound chambers and where the sound is going to be. So the first rectangle that we're going to come up with is the cutout for our phone. So like I told you, my phone is 3 inches wide by 5.5 inches or 6 inches tall. We want to put at least half of the phone in the stand so it's not going to tip over backwards. So make sure this rectangle isn't selected pink someplace else, because if it is selected pink and I go to draw it, it will just modify the size of this when I try to type in my new dimensions. So I'm going to say my phone, the cutout is a 1/2 inch bigger, 3.5. My phone's 3 inches, and my height being 6, I want at least 3 inches of that to be in the stand so it's not tipping backwards. So this is going to be the cutout, and if I want to get those little markers on there so this thing stays centered, I hit that button. So I want that to be lined up with the top, And usually VCarve's pretty good that if I come up here, it will snap to the top, and then I'll use the arrows to get it centered there. So that's going to be the cutout. That's going to be where my my phone is going to sit. Now we want to do some circles over here. On the example one, those holes were 2 inches, or the speaker holes are 2 inches. So I'm going to say a diameter of 2 inches, and then create. And if you're a person that likes to get things really specific and in the right places, you can spend as much time as you want getting this in the exact right spot. I'm going to eyeball it for this because you got better things to do than watch me be really picky. I'm going to highlight it, hit Control C to copy, and Control V to make another one. And I'm going to try to eyeball it about in the same spot over there. Now, if you could think with me for a minute, the very front plate, this probably doesn't need to look a whole lot different than that. Old phones, old iPhones used to have that home button down here that sometimes you had to push, so that's what this is for. We can still do that because that's where the unlock deal is, to unlock it. So if we want to make a little cutout there, we can. But we're not drawing the front piece right now. We're drawing the back piece. So we got to imagine what this would look like with this front piece taken out. So we're trying to draw the guts of it right now. And the guts of it, only the front piece has this. We'll do that in a second here. So now we got to figure out is what my phone is going to rest on. So let's say the phone is going to come down here an inch. So this was 3.5 inches. And I want my phone to actually sit behind. So it's going to slide in just like this cutout is 3 inches here to here, but it actually dives down another 3/4 of an inch or so. So I'm going to draw a rectangle that's 3.5 inches wide by 0.75. And this is not actually going to be in my final drawing. This is just going to help me know where the bottom of my phone is going to sit. So I'm going to grab this guy. My mouse is being funny. Snap it onto there. Try to line it up the best I can with this using the arrows. There we go. And so this back piece is actually going to cut down to here. So what I want to do to join these, I'm going to hit this one, select Shift, and this one. And I'm going to merge these together. So the back piece is going to cut deeper than the front piece. And then I need to somehow connect the sound. So my speakers are right here. Sorry, my mouse is, I think the battery's dying. Right here, we need to have some sort of a sound tunnel to get over to this. So I can use an arc if I want to. I can do that and that as a point. And we want kind of gradual curves. We don't want sharp curves because when we have sharp curves, the sound doesn't bend quite as nice. So I'm going to click this guy and then I'm going to say offset, and we'll have it offset inwards. And let's make that a 1/2 inch, 0.5. We're going to see what this looks like. And say offset. I went the other way. So let's say outwards is the way we want to go. That looks okay. So then to trim these up, I'm going to click this, hold Shift, and then let's hit this guy again. Oh, that wasn't the one I wanted to hit. No, that's not the one. I'm hitting Control Z. Well, and maybe what I just need to do is edit the end of this one. Like that, and edit the end of this one. Like that. I'm not super thrilled with that. So what I'm going to do is I might just draw another arc. We're going to have it connect here, here, and do something kind of like that. Now, yeah, I think that looks okay. Now I'm going to do this to make it even on both sides. I can mirror it to the right. Close that. I'm going to mirror this to the right. close that. And then I can move this over to that side and move this over to this side. Oops. And I'm not super concerned about this being exactly the same on both sides, but it will be important that these are touching. Just slide that over a little bit. And it's probably because I don't have these in the exact same locations. So let's just slide this over here. There. So I'm going to have, let's pretend my mouse pointer is the router bit. That's going to cut all this out. We want all of this to be the same depth. So let's try joining these and see what happens. The easiest way I found to join these is with the scissors. So I can click the scissors trim tool, trim this out, trim this out, trim this out, and trim that out. And we can see I'm not exactly perfect here, but I am not going to lose any sleep over that. So now, the last thing we need is some pegs here for our phone to sit on. So I would leave the center open because most of us probably have a charging cable that comes in there. But I'm going to measure the bottom of my phone just to the outside of those speakers. I see my speakers are about 1.5 inches apart. So bear with me for a minute. I'm going to make a 0.75 and a 0.75 and hit create. So I know that with these, if I put these down here, these are each 3/4 of an inch. That my speakers from the outside, so from here to here, is about 1.5 inches, with my phone being 3 inches wide. If I can put a support piece right here and right here, I will be outside of where my speakers are. So if I hit my speakers a little bit, that's okay. I'm going to get this right up next to the center, and I'm going to make these little support pieces. I'm going to say no less than 1/2 inch, but probably, let's see what this works. And I'm going to cut this out in the CNC router. Let's see what happens. I accidentally had this selected. I want to have none of them selected. The thing I worry about is these getting too small and the CNC router breaking them off when they're cutting, but I think we're going to be okay. I controlled C and controlled V that. And now I can delete this and delete this. And I'm going to cheat them just a little bit closer together. We'll cover up just a little bit of the speaker, but now my phone will come down and sit. So if we want to see, I'm just going to make a square that's the size of my phone. My phone is 3 by 6. Oh, you see what I did there? I had that one square selected, and so when I did the 3 by 6, it turned that square into a 3 by 6. So I'm going to try this again. There we go. So when my phone comes in here, it'll sit just like that, and even if I have it all the way to the edge here, it's not going to fall off of that support. And if I have it to the edge here, it's not going to fall off that support. Now I am a little bit worried, because my speakers come down right about here and here, that this is too far over. So, you know, it might be wise for me to slide these more towards the center. So we can do that here quick. And to do that, let's leave my phone there. The easiest way to do this So to make this opening a little bigger, I'm just going to grab this guy and I'll go just a little bit further down and a little bit more towards the center. And I want to make it pretty flat because I don't want to get so close to the edge. I'm going to close this, and now I'll just come back here, mirror this again. There's the mirror tool. Mirror to the right. There we go, and then we're just going to trim. Whoops-a-daisy. Let's not be touching. So I trimmed all of this off because it wasn't touching, so I just need to move this over a hair. So it's touching. Let's see if that does it. Still not touching. There we go. So now we have a little more of a channel for the sound to go in. I can see my phone here is fitting fine, and yours is going to have to get played with because you might have a bigger phone than I do. You want a bigger opening. Again, my phone is pretty small. It's not perfect. You know, if we were going to mass produce these, I'd probably change that so that was a little bit tighter. But generally speaking, we're going to have plenty of sound traveling up here and then bouncing around. So this is the back piece of my project. We haven't made the front piece yet. This is just the back piece, the walnut piece here, and this back maple piece. So this is a good stopping point. I will stop here, and then in the next video, we're going to make our front piece.